Wait, is this all Tony? No! Hello, I hope you can hear me and see me. It's a bit windy, a bit weird lighting. Anyway, this is the dash panel that goes between the windscreen and the proper dash. It's basically on the top part. This is in front of the driver with a big hole here. It's a plastic cover goes on top of there, and there's resettable fuses there. These here are air vents for the windscreen and the cab. This here is the latch for the glove box, so that is a big thing here. We have figured sort of out what we're going to do with regards to mounting the gadgets on the dashboard. We're going to have one wireless charger for the driver, which is going to be here, and it's light enough to just use a couple of rib nuts, and then I'll probably 3D print a holder for it. And the same thing goes here for the passenger. That'll be on the close to the passenger side door window. The reason why the driver's side isn't close to the driver's side door window is that whilst driving, the passenger might assist the driver in setting something on the phone. For example, a destination if you're using phone as a navigation, or changing tracks or whatever, or audiobooks or whatever. So answering a text, for example, where the driver cannot do that. So that needs to be accessible for the passenger one does not. And that's all we initially need, but I want to future-proof it a bit. This here is the center, and unfortunately the center is very wobbly. We are thinking of that maybe in the future we will be using a tablet for navigation, and this definitely does not hold a big tablet. So the solution to that is that underneath here I'm going to use some flat bar, and I'm going to make a reinforcement underneath here. I'm going to make it all across here, and this bracket here is where the glove box mounts. So I've drawn it out here. I don't know if you can see it, but it'll go from here around here, and then I'll put another little tab here so we can do that. Maybe I'll just do the whole thing, I don't know. But point is that then this can be, I'll attach it with screws. I won't weld it or anything like that, but I'll attach it with a few bolts, which means that you can then drill into it and tap into it, or bolt into it wherever you want over this area here. So that's the plan. It should be strong enough. It's very sturdy when it's there. It's just this part here that's fairly weak. There's some screws here that hold it in place too, so it's very rigid that way where the phone is. And over here there's obviously a lip here, so this bit here is also very strong. It's just this bit here that needs reinforcing, and obviously if we want to put something more there, so we'll see how it ends up. But that's kind of the plan at the moment for this bit. And obviously I've been scratched it. Anyway, right, so let's cut some metal. Whilst you're watching me start this project, I would like to take a moment to thank all the new subscribers and the old ones for sticking around and watching all this shenanigans that we are doing here. It's been about a year ago since I reached 1,000 subscribers, and we are just on the cusp of 2,000 subscribers now, so I'm very grateful. But now when that's over, we can focus on the build. What you can see me do here is cut up pieces of flat bar and cutting them obviously to length, and trimming them and marking out where they should go. I believe this is 25mm wide and about 3mm thick flat bar. It's just the cheap stuff, it's good enough for this. And then it's time to stick the metal pieces together. I'm using the TIG welder and a piece of aluminium to hold them level and straight, and some metal clamps because the plastic ones tend to melt for some weird reason. And after welding, it's time to get Mr. Flappy Flap Disc out and tidy up my inadequacies. And then it's time to stick on the last piece of the bracket. Same process as before. And this part is familiar by now, but we're now going to go a little bit extra fancy. So I'm using the old washer trick to get rounded corners, and then we get the cutting disc out, chop off the most part of the metal, and then it's time for the angle grinder, and we shape them a little bit, and then we use the flap disc to tidy it all up when it's all done. So that makes my inner perfectionist a little bit more happier. Some bonus material for you. How to extract a broken tap. Weld on a nut. Try if it works. Yeah, nah, didn't work. Clean it up. Weld on some more welding thingy. See if that works. Because I want some extra sturdiness here, I'm going to weld on some nuts. It's fairly simple. You put a bolt through the hole and you tighten down the nut on the other end and you weld it to the metal. If everything goes well, you should just be able to unscrew the bolts and you have a captive nut. However, with these small M5 nuts, there's a big chance that you weld a bit of the bolt to it all. So you might struggle a bit, and in some cases you might have to get the loud disc out to get rid of some of the sparks that are holding it in place. So just carefully grind and then do a little bit of wiggle jiggle there, and then hopefully you'll get them all out. But yeah, the smaller the nuts, the tighter they might sit, or something. And Yahtzee. Now this step shouldn't technically be necessary, but I find it gives a much smoother action. So I tend to run the tap through the holes again to make sure that all the threads are nice. And now it's time to attach the big black balls. The process is the same as before. Measure, mark, center punch, pilot drill, drill, tap, weld the nuts, re-tap, clean up, and you're done. Just a word of warning. Make sure that you tap from the right side of the metal, depending on whether you want a left-hand thread or a right-hand thread. You don't want to find yourself in the embarrassing situation where you're actually trying to screw a bolt in and it comes out. Oh, look! Riv nuts! In one of Jocke's videos. What a surprise! before we put it all together, there's a few things I missed filming. We drilled a hole for the USB charger, and Kaz decided to wrap it in vinyl rather than go with my bad paint job. There's not much to the install, just attach the brackets with all the screws and then attach the RAM balls on top of that, and also install the USB charger at the end of the panel. And this is what it looks like from the top and from the bottom. Not too bad, not too bad. One thing the voices told me to do was to get rid of those flanges on those bolts. I just couldn't stand it, so I had to put them in the drill press and grind them off, and now the voices are much quieter. Lastly, a picture of the USB charger. I used an XT connector so I can remove the dash panel easily. Another upgrade we've done is that we've put riv nuts in here instead of in more hands, instead of these clips that were there that use these little screws. Don't really like those. Like those a lot better. Welcome to another episode of This Old Yoker. You might have seen this one. This was version 1, prototype phone holder for the Unimog Dash. Apologies for this very rude interruption, but something happened before that you need to know. I modeled this socket which mimics a vent in the car, and it is the negative of the sticky out bits, the prongs on the charger, that is designed to attach to a car vent. This allows us to attach it to the arm that we're about to talk about. So, without further ado, let's get back to the scheduled program. And this was modeled in Fusion 360. Thank you very much, Autodesk. I love that software. It is printed with PLA with a very rude layer height of 0.3 millimeters. So you can probably see some of the ridges here. It's printed using PLA. Maybe I already said that, but PLA is a nice prototyping filament. It prints nicely, it is fairly cheap, and you can work a little bit with it. It proved a few things. It proved that the height was about right, it proved that the angle was about right, it proved a few little things like that. So the basic concept was safe, it was good, which meant that I could proceed to the next version. One thing that neither of us liked about this one is that the shape is quite ugly. It looks like something from a bad cartoon, from a children's book. Anyway, oh, and the reason why it's a little bit of a panda or cow or whatever color, whatever you want to call it, is that I ran out of white filament. It was the last I had, so I just plonked in the next filament that I had, which turned out to be black. So version 1 there, and then we created another version, and that version looks like this. And again, you can see that it is rudely printed with 0.3mm layer height, just to get things done. Now this one has got a better design, I think. It looks a little bit more modern. It doesn't look like it's about to poke its head out of the trash compactor or something. It's got a thinner base. It's got some holes here for extra speed. And yeah, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? Another thing that we did was that we recessed the holes for the riv nut. They stick up a little bit, so they need that. But yeah, it worked really well. We're pretty happy with this one, so we're gonna just go with it. Which means that now we have 2 versions here, and they are printed in PETG, which means that they will now withstand a little bit higher temperatures, and they shouldn't start drooping, unlike Hugh Hefner. Anyway, so yeah, this is pretty much how they came out of the printer. You can see that they're a bit hairy. Maybe you can see that. That's a property of the PETG. Other than that, they are exactly the same shape as the PET one. Oh, sorry, PLA one. So now what I need to do is I need to tidy them up a bit. There's a few artifacts here from the printing process. Give this a bit of a sanding and get rid of the little hairy bits and stuff like that. So yeah, then they can be installed in the Unimog driver's cab. Oh no, sorry. So let's have a look at the end result. Let's start from the driver's side and go over to the passenger side on the right. First, just here on the dash is a voltmeter, but also a dual USB charger. The top one is Type C plus PD, and the bottom one is a Type A QC 3.0. So that one should be able to give us quite a lot of power if we need to. It is mounted here so that I can put a camera or another device here that needs power or charging. Then we have the phone holder right here. It is a one-handed operation phone holder with the wireless charger. So when you get in the cab, you can just put the phone in there. Then we have the 2 RAM balls mounted here. They are pretty sturdy. Let me just tighten those up. So they are pretty sturdy. They are not meant to be climbed upon, but they will hold a tablet and a action camera or something like that. Probably a drinks holder or something in those lines. There's 2 USB C cables coming up through the dash, which are fed from the dual panel underneath the dash, underneath the glove box, which I made another video of. Going further towards the passenger side, in the glove box there's a dual USB charger. That's perfect for when you put something that needs charging in the glove box, such as camera batteries or things like that, something that doesn't need to be outside when charging. Then we have the passenger side wireless mobile phone charger, which is the same as this one, same mount, same charger, everything's the same, just a bit further that way. Then next to that is another dual USB charger for charging, again, if we want to mount something on the passenger side, camera or something like that. And that's where we're going to leave it this time. I would like to thank everybody for their support. It's been amazing. Thank you. And obviously the usual YouTube shenanigans are always appreciated, and there will be a lot more like this to come. So thank you very much for watching. Didn't mean to leave you there. Sorry. Come on out. Let's lock the truck up and you can go home.